Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest, Dr. Pacinthe, Fahmy, the economic expert. Dr. Pacinthe, a very good afternoon to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us. Now, the French President Emmanuel Macron is hosting a summit aimed at finding ways to support struggling African economies amid the global COVID-19 pandemic. Africa doesn't actually have one of the highest infection rates or numbers, but was definitely hit hard economically by the pandemic. To what extent, Doctor, did this pandemic really affect the continent economically?
It affects it in a very, very serious and bad manner. Africa is in a very critical situation, and I'm glad that finally Europe, the President Macron and President Sisi together are planning to put a strategy to fight poverty, to fight sickness, to fight terrorism, to fight all the problems which exist in Africa. Africa is a very rich continent, but unfortunately has been left for decades. And why now the whole world is moving? Because this pandemic has crossed the border, has reached the whole world. And if the whole world does not get together to put solutions to what is happening in Africa, the distress will be really critical on an international level. And that's why I have to salute President Sisi and President Macron so that they have started by putting this strategy to help the African continent. The African continent is a very rich continent with natural resources. It needs technology, it needs assistance. We have a great story to tell them about, which is the economic reform. France is very advanced, and not only advanced, but they have as well good experience in Africa. Most of African countries are French-speaking. They know how to deal with the French. But to put a clear picture, Egypt has been always the entry to Africa, Egypt, Sudan, and then Africa. So this summit is extremely important. And finally, I repeat, all of them have put in strategy, a proper strategy, not only to help them and give them finance, but the point is to transfer technology to help them develop, as we say, by using the economic diplomacy.
Yes.
Africa is rich, the world is advanced, we have the experience, so together we can build and restructure and proper life for all African countries.
Absolutely. Doctor, now this gathering has brought together over 30 African and European heads of state, as well as heads of global financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund. What steps, in your opinion, Doctor, are now needed on the ground to support African countries economically as soon as possible?
A proper strategy to decide how we're going to do it. And it has to be done on a tripartite strategy. And I repeat, they have the technology, the African have the wealth, we have the experience, and the fund can come from the Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the international institutions, crowding finance. There are many ways. But the existence of the 100 advanced countries, companies, the cross-border companies, is essential. The economic diplomacy is essential. The presence of Egypt, because Egypt is the entry through Sudan and then Africa to develop this area. And I want to mention here as well, the globalization was a big failure.
Yes.
It created very rich people and very poor people, and this actually made the whole world suffer because of illegal immigration, because of trafficking, illegal trafficking, whatever. But now Egypt and Sudan, with the European countries and the international institutions, can form a group to immediately start helping Africa. It's not a matter of finance only, but it's the development of economic strategies to make those people live decently.
Absolutely. And Doctor, the conference will also be discussing the issue of transfer of technology to Africa to allow Africa to integrate in global economies. Let's talk a bit about this technology transfer, or the transfer of know-how to African countries. How do you think it can be provided, and how essential is it to achieving the goal of integrating African economies into the global economy?
It is essential, but it has to be done through phases. Phase one is the cooperation, because you cannot just transfer technology for people who are not well educated, who do not have the experience. So the first phase is to work together The second phase is to train the African young generations on how to be part of those multinational institutions. We all pass through that experience. At the beginning, they do it, and then gradually we replace them. But it will take phases. The phase one, as I said, cooperation and training. Phase two, participation. And phase three, the Africans themselves can develop their own way of doing business. But I repeat, we cannot do without the advanced technology of the world. The world has changed. It is not the old world you used to see. The problems are very complicated. You need a new monetary policy, a new fiscal policy, transfer of technology, the language, etc. But the most important thing is the strategy should be clear, well studied, and then the application is easy to do.
Absolutely. Now, Doctor, one final question, ma'am. European countries were colonial powers in the past. So, in your opinion, what mechanisms are needed to ensure that, their interventions in the continent will help them help African countries maintain their independence politically and economically as well?
European countries learned the lesson. You cannot keep on being rich and leaving the other behind, because the problems were transferred to Europe. Illegal immigration, diseases, crime. So the concept of globalization, which used to exist in the past, where some countries are elite and live a super life and the rest is watching, is finished, because they know that if not everybody is satisfied, if not everybody is on a win-win situation, Europe or the United States or elsewhere can never live in peace. So I think they learned the lesson. But there is another positive point. The European knows very well the African country. They know them as well. They speak their language. So I think this could ease the phase one, which is the cooperation and transfer of technology.
Right. Dr. Pacinthe Fahmy, our economic expert, I'd like to thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. Thank you so much, Doctor, and for your insight on our special edition and our coverage here on Now TV International. Ladies and gents, another short break, and we'll be right back to continue. Stay tuned.